Welcome, welcome, welcome. Yes, my friends. This is the Vintage Edmonton Music Podcast, and I'm your host, Rev Recluse, and welcome to podcast number 14. I hope everybody's doing fantastic out there. So what are we going to do here today? Joe Kozak is a guy that has had his fingers in vintage Edmonton music and really vintage Central Alberta and Alberta music literally since the 50s. And, you know, through different things like being a producer, being an engineer, being a singer, being a session player, being an instrumentalist. And it's very cool to me that I'm going to spotlight him as an artist himself rather than being a supporting player or all these different things. This particular record I picked up, I think 5 months ago at one of my community garage sales on the weekend that I go with my beautiful wife, Mrs. Recluse, and very, very happy that I picked this one up. This is a really cool record. I don't have the date on this. I'm thinking this is a, let's say, early 60s record, but I'm not quite sure. This is a record specifically called High on a Hilltop with Joe Kozak and his Quartet, featuring, this is kind of like $1 million quartet of Alberta music, really. Gabby Hass, everybody know who he is, on accordion. Clarence Plouffe on lead guitar. Ernie Gerlach on rhythm guitar. And Joe Kozak on bass and vocals on the Banff record label, which I've got a lot of records from. And I'm just pleased as punch to play this one. This is a great example of what I think is kind of like a Canadian-centric or a Western Canadian-centric version of what I used to call in the U.S. It's called Western swing music. Ernest Tubb, I guess, was a great example of Western swing music. It's not exactly folk music. It's not exactly country music. It's not exactly rhythm and blues music. It's kind of like a big mashup or a big stew of all of these kind of things. And this is a great Canadian-centric version of Western swing music. So we'll just call it Western Canada swing music, I guess. And great musicianship, great vocals from Joe, and it's really, really nice to play this kind of stuff on the podcast. It doesn't get a lot of play really anywhere else, so I'm just pleased as punch to get this out here for all you fine people. So I'm going to start this off with a great song. I love this song, maybe my favorite one on here. This is a song called Dear Hearts and Gentle People. This is, again, I know I say this with every podcast, but this is stuff that you would literally hear on the weekends in the 50s and the 60s and even into the 70s on community halls, literally all over Western Canada, big and small. So this is a great example of this kind of stuff. Listen to the musicianship, which is top notch, I think, anyway. So this is Joe Kozak and his Quartet from the album called High on a Hilltop with a song called Dear Hearts and Gentle People here on the Vintage Edmonton Music Podcast.
I love those dear hearts and gentle people who live in my hometown, because those dear hearts and gentle people will never ever let you down. They read the good book from Friday till Monday. That's how the weekend goes. I've got a dream house I'm gonna build someday, with picket fence and rambling road. I feel so welcome each time that I return, that my happy heart keeps laughing like a clown. I love those dear hearts and gentle people who live and love in my hometown. So welcome each time that I return, and my happy heart keeps laughing like a clown. I love those dear hearts and gentle people who live and love in my hometown. Oh yeah, who live and love in my hometown.
Welcome back to the Vintage Edmonton Music Podcast. That was Joe Kozak and his quartet with a song called Dear Hearts and Gentle People. Now, the next song I want to play for you is a great, great song called Gone Fishing, and again spotlights the quartet's impeccable musicianship. Very, very peppy. It's funny. I am not a dancer in any way, shape, or form. I am very uncoordinated. I'm the guy that's in the back of the hall that's kind of like bobbing his head while everybody else dances. I try to dance. I get on the dance floor, and immediately people start calling the ambulance because they think I'm having some kind of a fit. And, you know, I don't do it anymore for that reason. And don't want to embarrass my wife, of course. But again, you just cannot help but get on the dance floor when you hear songs like this. So I'm just going to shut up and I'm going to play this fantastic song. This is Gone Fishing by Joe Kozak and his quartet on the Vintage Edmonton Music Podcast.
Well, I might have gone fishing. I got thinking it over. The road to the river is a mighty long way. It must be the season, no rhyme or no reason. I'm taking it easy, it's my lazy day. Just another man a-calling, 'cause I ain't a-coming. I'm getting on fine now, I ain't one to play. Just a little deep thinking will drive me to drinking. I'm taking it easy, it's a lazy day. Just another man calling, 'cause I'm not coming. I'm getting on fine now, I ain't wanting to play. Just a little deep thinking will drive me to drinking. I'm taking it easy, it's my lazy day. Well, I might have gone a-fishing, I got thinking it over. The road to the river is a mighty long way. It must be the season, no rhyme or no reason. I'm taking it easy, it's a lazy day. I'm taking it easy, it's my lazy day.
Welcome back to the Vintage Edmonton Music Podcast. That was Joe Kozak and his quartet with a song called Gone Fishing. And if you go to the Vintage Edmonton website that has this particular podcast on it, the post for it, I have also posted an article from the Edmonton Journal about Joe Kozak, talking about his life and the particular studio, the legendary, for me anyway, Project 70 Studios that he's put together. So many records came out of the Project 70 Studios that I have at least in my collection that will be spotlighted in an upcoming Vintage Edmonton Music Podcast and have been spotlighted on Vintage Edmonton Music Podcast. Very, very interesting stuff. Joe, I think, doesn't get enough credit. Being just a mover and shaker, you know, a legendary figure in Vintage Edmonton music and vintage Alberta music, like I said. So check that out. The next song I want to play for you is a great song, again, called We Could. Again, can't say enough about the musicianship on his. Gabby Haas, Clarence Plouffe, Ernie Gerlach, and Joe Kozak. Listen to the music. Try not to dance when you're listening to this stuff. It's impossible. So this is Joe Kozak and his quartet with a song called We Could on the Vintage Edmonton Music Podcast.
joy that true love brings a girl and boy. We could, you and I. And if anyone could ever say that their true love was here to stay, we could, you and I. When you're in my arms, I know you're happy to be there. And just as long as I'm with you, I'm happy anywhere. If anyone could pray each night to thank the Lord that all is right, we could, you and I. To be there, and just as long as I'm with you, I'm happy anywhere. If anyone could pray each night to thank the Lord that all is right, we could, you and
Welcome back to the Vintage Edmonton Music Podcast. That was Joe Kozak and his quartet with a song called We Could. Now, for the last song I'm going to play for you on the podcast, it also happens to be the last song on the record. It's a song called Remember Me. And again, when I close my eyes, I can really conjure up a great vignette in my mind of listening to Joe and his quartet in some small Alberta community hall packed with people and listening to this record, listening to this song. It's a really cool atmospheric record. It really brings out that kind of a feeling with me. And again, it's so much fun to listen to this kind of stuff, listen to this kind of music. It's a great example again of Western swing music with a little Canadian twist to it. So I hope you're enjoying this as much as I am. This is Joe Kozak once again with Gabby Haas on accordion, Clarence Plouffe on lead guitar, Ernie Gerlach on rhythm guitar, and the man himself, Joe Kozak, on bass and vocal. This is the song called Remember Me by the Joe Kozak Quartet on the Vintage Edmonton Music Podcast.
When you're all alone and blue, no one to tell your troubles to, remember me, I'm the one who loves you. When this world has let you down, not a true friend can be found. Remember me, I'm the one who loves you. And through all kinds of weather, you find I'll never change. Through the sunshine and the shadow, I'll always be the same. We're together right or wrong, but where you go, I'll tag along. Remember me, I'm the one who loves you. of a chain through the sunshine and the shadow. I'll always be the same. We're together, right or wrong. Where you go, I'll tag along. Remember me, I'm the one who loves you. Oh, remember me, I'm the one who loves you.
Welcome back to the Vintage Edmonton Music Podcast. That was Joe Kozak and his Quartet with a song called Remember Me. And that's it, folks. That's the end of the podcast. But I do want to talk about a couple of new bits of news that I want to spring on you fine people. And yes, I would be remiss if I didn't mention that I am on iTunes. I am on iTunes. You can subscribe to me on iTunes. But I have two new platforms that you can also subscribe to the podcast on. Number one is the TuneIn app. Yes, I am on TuneIn now. You can subscribe to me there. Very, very happy about this. Just very, very happy. I think everybody pretty much uses the TuneIn app, whether you have an iPhone or an Android phone, and just happy about that. Also, within the next, I think, 2 weeks, I'm going to say, at least certainly for the next podcast anyway, I am also going to have an app on Google Play. So if you want to subscribe to the podcast or listen to the podcast on Google Play on top of all the other platforms I'm on, you could certainly do that now. Again, just very, very happy about this. I'm very happy that the podcast is getting more exposure. Unfortunately, I guess I'm going to have to shave now, since I have all of this exposure now. I'm going to have to shave and maybe put on a 3-piece suit and act a little bit more professional, and not stop guzzling my coffee while I do this. So sorry about that. If you ever hear that guzzling sound in the background, that's coffee, by the way. Lots of coffee. But yes, I am on TuneIn. I'm on now iTunes and soon to be on Google Play. So whatever platform is your platform of choice to listen to podcasts, especially my podcast, I think you have a pretty good choice now. So I'm very, very glad about that. And yeah, I think that's about it. Until next time, I'll see you all later.